Aisha Butalia here. We are always talking about user experience design, DESIGN. So what is this design? Okay, and we would reinitiate by the phases of software development life cycle, SDLC. As discussed previously, the different phases of SDLC are requirement gathering, analysis, design, coding/implementation and testing. And requirement gathering, what does it come? The input, the output and the process. As simple as that. When you are defining a problem statement, which was our previous topic, okay, why problem statement is important, okay, because you know what you need to perform to have the desirable output. You have a problem, okay, for which you are finding the solution. So for which you are finding the solution is your outcome. So to find the outcome, you should know exactly what the problem is. So once you identify the problem statement, that is in your requirement analysis phase. So once you define the problem statement, you clearly define what is input, what is process you are going to use to have the desired output. You can do reverse engineering. First you should find what is your expected output and accordingly fix the input and the feasible solution, that is the process. So this in analysis we have discussed that you have to prepare the SRS, that is system requirement specification or software requirement specification. As told earlier, I've got YouTube videos on both the topics, okay, on SRS. You can go through in detail. However, you have learned it in software engineering. If not, then go through that and know how to prepare an SRS. In SRS, majorly you clearly define the input, process, output, the hardware, the software, the limitations, okay, the challenges, okay, and in brief all these things, what technologies, what methods you are going to use. Comes your design. In design, again we had discussed earlier about the UML diagrams. So you have learned UML diagrams and we had discussed 9 UML diagrams in brief, okay, starting from use case, activity, sequence, class, object, deployment, state chart, okay, and so forth. So, and we had also discussed that the most appropriate UML diagram for user experience or UI UX design would be our use case diagram, because in use case diagram you try to show the interaction between your process, your application and the actors, and the actors is your clients, your stakeholders, your users. It can also be the external database from where you are getting your data to get processed and give the desirable output. So most appropriate. But we also discussed that all the diagrams, design diagrams are important for even indirectly in your UI UX design. Because for example, you have a login and a password on your front page, okay, you can see that as your UI UX design, but when the person will put username and password, what it will do, it will go to the backend, there will be a database, there it will verify the username. If the username is not there in the entire list, it will first say that the username does not exist. If the username is there in your database at the backend, it will identify the password, match it with the password input by the user. If it matches, it will redirect to the next UI UX design, that is the inbox or whatever the home page. You understand? So you cannot say that only the first page UI UX is important. what is going to the next page depends upon the database design and the inputs coming from the database. You are understanding? So indirectly all the diagrams are important. So apart from UML diagrams, now see, when you create a class diagram, you are creating the attributes and the functions. Now that functions are nothing but the procedures which work on the processing of the data, which you are calling it as variables. So without data you are not going to process anything. So there has to be database design as well, compulsorily, and that you have learned in your database systems as your ER model, entity relationship model. And then using the relational database you have created tables using SQL. Not exactly, but indirectly, because to get the flow of the next page, it has to understand how the functionality is working. So indirectly, yes. Okay. And of course in the testing part, if the login is incorrect, then also it is redirecting to the inbox page. That is a testing error of your UI UX design, because somewhere your functionality is not properly inbuilt to get the expected output. So it is actually indirectly there in all the phases of the SDLC life cycle. Okay. So thank you very much for the patience listening. I just wanted to highlight in this particular session that how design word is appropriated when you talk about user experience. You need not fear about the word design. You already know how the concepts are. Okay, software engineering concepts, the UML diagram, the database diagram. Of course, it's much more, but primarily you have to start with all this. So thank you once again. This is Dr.